embrace the magical side of life, where anything is possible and the infinite is accessible to all? Let's have a conscious conversation about what's going on in the world, in your life, and your relationship from the expanded perspective of your soul. The path to awareness begins and ends in the heart. So let's take it there, one step at a time, and learn to cultivate magic in your life every single day. In each episode, we share a collective space in which we discover the unique facets of our own magic and embody our superhuman qualities by humbly exploring how it's super simply to be human. Hosts Kai and Dell co-create a magical experience to remind you that you are magical as fuck. Now, be unleashed. This is our daily magic.
And we're live. Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of our Daily Magic podcast. And as the intro said, we believe that each and every one of us are magical in our own unique way, and you are here to unleash your magic. We're going to have another magical conversation with another magical being who's going to show you just how possible it is and what can happen when your magic is unleashed. So I'm excited for this conversation because this person who's our guest healed from something very intense. And we're going to get really into this. I know there's going to be some questions from our guests or from our audience potentially, but also listen to this person sharing her magic as if it is you, because it is you. And what is possible for her is also possible for you as well. And she's going to share just how she was able to formulate that. And let's get into this. So I'm one half of the host, Dell.
And I'm Kai. And our guest, Sandie, is a health coach who has helped guide hundreds of people in over 25 countries on their healing journey. After suffering severe side effects from medications during her 20-year battle with chronic migraines, she was diagnosed with lupus, and she committed herself to heal naturally. Through her experiences, she developed a whole body, mind, and spirit approach that addresses the person in a truly holistic manner. And she takes the guesswork out of the equation by running functional lab work to see what the body needs. She healed herself of migraines, depression, lupus, interstitial cystitis, and cystic acne. Her purpose is to help educate others on the importance of shifting focus to rebuilding and rebalancing the body and removing internal and external stress so that the body can just heal itself. Welcome, Sandie.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Wow. So one is that you're located in Canada. Is that right?
Yeah, right now I am in Canada again. We spend about half the year in Florida. We bought a house there in last October. So we love that, getting away from the cold. Mind you, we came back here, and since we've been back, it's still cold.
Got it. So despite the weather.
Yeah. It's we've got a lot to do. We're currently working on selling our house. The closing date is at the end of the month, so there's a lot to do. And we're transitioning to living in a really nice travel trailer for the summer, just to give us a lot more options.
Very nice.
Lots of changes, fun times.
Is Canada where most of the clientele that you support, is that where they're located?
Most of my clients are actually from the United States. So probably I'd say about 80% are in the US. And I have actually a smaller number in Canada compared to the rest of the world. And I think it's more so because of the way our healthcare system works. People have a tendency to want to use something that is free versus going out of pocket. It's more so a conditioning. I do have clients here, but a lot of clients in Australia, UK, all over Europe, and even like I have clients in Malaysia. So everywhere, all over the world, I've got them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's amazing what we can do just sitting at home, the effect and the change that we can bring to the world right from the comfort of our own home. And I know that you guys do the same thing. Yeah.
And that is a great way to start the conversation. And before we get into it, I want to say hello to Ash Alexandria. I see you. Thank you for the comments already. And also whoever hears live as well. Definitely your comments, your interaction with this is going to make this a very great conversation. Oh, and we already have a comment. We learned that during COVID. I guess it's about the healthcare.
Well, I think it's that we can all work from home, really. I think
Okay.
There, yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's one of those things that was avoided by a lot of corporations until it got forced that it had to happen, and now it's proven because one of the fears and concerns of what a lot of corporation had is the productivity is going to go down and all this other stuff if we do work from home, and a lot people got forced to work from home and they were even more productive than they were before. But also the fact that the work-home balance, and that's the one thing I heard about, it started to become a challenge for people because they didn't know when to stop working and be with family, and then vice versa. And also because the kids are home, homeschooling, it's a lot of different things going on at the same time.
Yeah, it requires a lot of balance for sure, but once you get there and you find that balance, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And there we go. Like the question I want to ask, start expanding even more. Balance. So we heard your amazing story, but obviously we want to hear more about it. And the question that I have for you is, how did you find your balance that allowed you to receive the healing that you received in your own journey?
Yeah, for me, it definitely was a long journey. I had to go through a lot of suffering throughout those times to move forward. And it really doesn't have to be that way. And that's one of the big things that I like to bring about with my message is that it doesn't have to be what I went through. So I was diagnosed with migraines at age 7. I had my first migraine, and they slowly started to get worse over time. As I hit my teens and the hormone changes, I started to suffer from anxiety and depression and insomnia and OCD, and all of these behavioral issues started to happen. And I was actually diagnosed with bipolar depression at age 19. So that is a medical diagnosis that I do have on my file. And I was put on many medications that didn't work. They didn't help my migraines. And I ended up going on Effexor, which is an antidepressant, which helped relieve them a little bit. They were still there, but it numbed everything. And I basically turned into a zombie, which was better than what it was, but nowhere where I could be. So from there, I was in school to become a doctor, and I changed path because on Effexor, I was not able to get off of it. And it came with all these side effects. And I decided it wasn't the profession for me. I could not prescribe these medications. And I ended up becoming a massage therapist. And in my last year of schooling, I ended up having a really severe bout of food poisoning, and that just spiraled my health into chaos. I went from being unhealthy but functioning to no longer functioning within a year, and I ended up having to move home with my parents. I got a diagnosis of lupus, and my world just really fell apart. And it was a year, a really dark year. I was very depressed. The medical world was not offering me any help except more medications. And that was not something that I wanted to do because I was already stuck on one medication that came with all these side effects and I could not get off of it. So from there, it was through listening to a podcast that I had this really big shift, and I recognized where I was really in victim mentality and was blaming everybody, blaming my parents and society and the medications. And from there, I started to take I really just took my power back, and I became so determined. It was like night and day. One day, total victim mentality, and then the spark happened, and I went into total determination to figure out what was going on. And I turned to my background in science. I have a degree in biomedicine, and I started to really focus on the natural science behind healing, because the science is there. If we just look at what we have available naturally, then we can really make shifts. And it took me a while. It took me a year to get off of the antidepressants, but I was able to. I got my brain balanced, which was amazing because, there's no cure for that, right? And they say that you're going to have this for the rest of your life. And people who meet me now, I'm very emotionally stable. I am a very, we all have our days, but very joyful, happy, calm, present person. And that was all done naturally. And from there, I turned from focusing on the brain to focusing on my detox pathways, focusing on the gut. And there was definitely a lot of trial and error. I took many steps backwards until I finally invested in myself and took a course to teach me how to interpret labs and run labs. And I took very many courses and was able to just really get to a level of health that I never thought possible. Because when I was diagnosed with lupus, I didn't think I was going to be able to have children. They told me it was a risk. And at the time I was so sick, I couldn't think about taking care of a child. So when I was able to get to this level of health, that of course was the first thing that I did. So I did get pregnant. I have a beautiful son. He is going to be 4 in September. It was the most empowering experience of my life. And from there, I just took it further and I started delving into the world of genetics, expanding on the test analysis, creating my program, which is very, very holistic, and teaching people how to heal their body. And it led to writing my book, Heal Yourself, which is a big overview of my program and how I work. And it includes the mindset aspect that is needed to heal, and the spiritual, emotional shifts that are needed to heal, and the science. And then from there, I took it even further and I created a practitioner course called the Integrative Healing Academy, where I train people to do what I do. And that is actually just running its beta launch right now, which is amazing. It sold out in a few days and I have a incredibly long wait list. So now it's just moving into that, moving away from being a practitioner and more into teaching other people how to do what I do.
Amazing.
Thank you.
And what was that podcast, by the way?
It was from Sean Stevenson's. It was called How to Not Let a Disease Diagnosis Kill You.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I love how that, like you said, the spark.
It was a spark, yeah.
But the spark ignited you
Mm-hmm.
and made a decision to do something different than what you were told to do.
Yes. Yeah, we're conditioned so much that the medical system is the way that we need to go. And I think now there is such a growing movement into natural healing. And we have so many really smart people out there who are taking the science and creating these labs that we can use to find out what the body needs to heal, versus when you look at it from a modern medicine perspective, they're just finding out, okay, a diagnosis, which is a label on a bunch of symptoms. They're not concerned about the root causes. They're trying to turn off the symptom. It's like putting a sticker over your check engine light and pretending you're all good. And then what they're using is causing more harm. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against medication. I think there's a time and place for it, especially when somebody has gotten to a point with their body that they do need some intervention to help quickly. But there's a different way where we can change our lifestyles, we can change what we're eating, we can take proper supplements, we can find and run the labs to determine what our body needs to heal so we can customize those supplements and really work on the emotional aspect, the spiritual aspect of why we're sick. We work on the body, we work on the mind, and we work on the spirit.
What are some of the little known spiritual aspects that people can integrate into a healthy lifestyle that just some people just don't know about?
Well, a big one that I believe in is focusing on our passion. Most of us, we are so programmed by society that we need to get a job, pay our bills, work really hard, work to retire, and it's all about making money. And money is great and we can all live from abundance and we can get that too, but we also want to really focus on our passions. And it doesn't mean you have to just go quit your job and jump into something. You can use your job to fuel your passion, but it's starting to bring passion into each and every day.
That makes a lot of sense. That coupled with the first word of the day, which was balance.
Balance and passion.
Balance and passion.
Yeah. I'm curious too, because you're mentioning with your practices and what you did that lead to your healing, and instead of the surface level things, which a lot of like on the medicine side of things may be labeled on a surface level of stuff and not really get into the root cause and giving you stuff on a surface level. It's like, okay, here, deal with it. Here's going to allow you to be with this or cope with this thing. But the side effects is going to be something else that's going to happen. So for you, when you actually explored the root reasons that led to your healing, what were some of like the root stuff that you actually brought up that you pulled out of you to be able to allow you to get into this balance for healing?
Yeah, so a big one for me was a neurotransmitter imbalance. And that was causing symptoms with my heart, which they blamed on lupus. I was having a heart arrhythmia, being diagnosed with bipolar depression. It was an imbalance in my brain. And when I learned how our neurotransmitter balance, and again, we have our word balance again, it's so important, and we're all so different. And when I got into it, we knew nothing about genetics back then. This was, that was close to 10 years ago now. So we didn't know about how our genetics was creating our brain chemistry, and now we do. So at the time, it was all trial and error, using amino acids, giving the body certain nutrients. Because a lot of the times, the reason why our brain is not working is we're just missing basic nutrients because our body has become so depleted due to the high toxin load. So the toxins are depleting our nutrients that are needed to make our enzymes function. And so we're not producing our neurotransmitters properly. But there's specific amino acids that we can use to build our dopamine and build our serotonin levels. And then once I learned about the genetics, it's very easy to just see a person's genetics and really judge how much of each supplement they need versus just guessing based on symptoms. So all of the issues with my brain, which led me to being put on Effexor, which kind of slows the breakdown of serotonin, that then came with all these side effects that were, most of those side effects that I was having from lupus was actually from the medication. And once the medication was gone, a lot of those side effects went away. And once I was able to balance my brain, then the heart symptoms also went away. So it's amazing to see. And it's one of the reasons why I start with a very big focus on balancing the brain, because if the brain is out of balance, everything else is going to be out of balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like besides the nutrition aspects of the brain coming out of balance, is there like any other potential factors that would bring the brain out of balance?
Yeah, definitely. Any emotional stress is going to do more so than even toxins and chemicals will. anytime we're having a very big emotional stress, and this could be something sudden like the death of a loved one, it could be a loss of a job, like a loss of the identity with the ego, or it could be just repetitive stress every day where you're not expressing yourself, you're bottling up everything inside. That is going to affect your neurotransmitters every single day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So suppression leads to depression.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's where the mind, body, spirit approach is so important, because you can have somebody who's taking supplements, they're running labs, but if they are not dealing with emotional trauma and that's leading them to drink every night, the supplements themselves are not going to do it alone. It needs to be we need to address all these different aspects. I actually had a client, he emailed me the other day and he was like, Sandie, I'm taking all these supplements and I'm not having any results. And I then found out that he was drinking every single night, and he was up all night at a job that he hated, working night shifts. And we can't expect ourselves to feel great when we're in a dead-end job, we're drinking alcohol every day, and we're not taking care of ourselves. The supplements they're not magic. The magic is the work we do on ourselves.
We have a comment from Peter. Happy birthday, Peter, by the way. Neurotransmitters. My traumatic brain injury on 3/15/95 affected them. My doctor, Dr. Rady, associate professor at Harvard, summarized neurotransmitters like this: good luck in managing your brain, meaning the insufficient amount of chemicals. I was totally disabled from a quirky incident. I was hit in the head where my left temporal lobe is by a Downs boy I had from that last lesion cut. So if you want to clarify that at the end, Peter, that would be super helpful, because I'm so interested in what you're saying. But that summary, good luck in managing your brain, for a doctor to say that to someone, I can only imagine how that must feel.
And I sympathize, because when I was diagnosed with lupus, I was told I was going to be dead in 10 years without medication. So it was, you need this medication or you're going to die. So I get that, the lack of compassion, the lack of understanding from doctors. Now, when it comes to a traumatic brain injury, we might not be able to heal that area of the brain that has been injured, but the brain is remarkable. It can rewire. So there are so many stories around the world of people having strokes or having injuries, and their brain relearns how to do things. And that's when we want to really focus on the mindset and the spiritual aspect of it, and provide the nutrients for the body so that the brain has the best chance. So when we can balance the neurotransmitters and support the neurotransmitters, that gives the brain the best chance to rewire. But then we also have to start giving it tasks to be able to rewire. Whenever there's an injury, we have to have that drive and motivation to heal. And it does take a lot. It's a spiritual journey whenever we're presented with these illnesses, and it's speaking from experience myself. It does take a lot of spiritual work to work through it and become determined to. You might not be the same person that you were, and we do need to let go of that, but you can become something more.
That's worth repeating. That you can let go of who you were and
become something more. Because so often I find people are stuck where they have an injury or an event, and all they want to do is get back to where they were. And that's not possible. But if we can shift and come to acceptance of where we are, and really trust that where we are is where we need to be, and become okay with where we are, then we can move into something more.
Got it. So it's like that mantra about acceptance. We've got another word of the day.
Yes, acceptance, balance, and what was our other word?
Acceptance, balance. What was our other word? It'll come.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will come.
I'm curious now. Let's talk some spiritual stuff now. So, acceptance of accepting where you are, but then also obviously if you want to heal something or an ailment, this belief that it's possible, like you can heal from whatever you're going through. So I'm curious of back to one of the words of the day, the balance in between of the desire of doing the work of healing, but then also accepting what's here right now, and not having a conflict with both.
Yeah. So, and that's where faith comes in, right? Where we can have a goal and a desire for the future. We can have this vision, but recognizing that, spirit, God, the universe, whichever word we want to put on it, has a plan, a path. And when we trust that we're not just our body, we're not just these physical beings, we're a spiritual being that I personally believe we chose to come here and we chose to experience certain things and for certain reasons that we're not going to fully ever understand. And if we can get into that trust and faith that our spirit is okay, and we just become the observer of this journey, that whatever happens to us is okay, that there is no good, there is no bad, there is no right, there is no wrong, there is just this experience. And there is this bigger picture that we cannot see. And when we can come again to acceptance of that, it doesn't mean we can't dream, we can't have a vision, but we're okay if it doesn't happen exactly the way that we think it should. We kind of give our faith to something bigger that it will be okay no matter how it goes. But we can find peace in the present moment when we let go of the past and we let go of how we think things should be. And then we can find that acceptance.
So now I want to dive even deeper with this. And the topic I want to go to a little bit is law of attraction. So, and Abraham Hicks, like she has a book of the universe always says yes. So if the universe says yes to, let's say I want a healing for a certain thing, but then I got to trust and be okay either way. But then the universe supposedly says yes to whatever our desires are. I'm trying to like grasp like how does both of them.
Mm-hmm. So I actually have a section on my book on the laws of attraction. It's something I find that whenever people start on their spiritual journey, they normally go to the laws of attraction. It's one of the big things. And I actually have a section in my book. It's called the stages of consciousness. And the majority of the population right now are in something called victim mentality. So the world is happening to them. And the normal progression on our spiritual journey as we move into phase 2, which is manifestation. And that's all about the laws of attraction. And I find a lot of people get really stuck here where we can manifest whatever we desire. And I've seen this over and over and have extensively studied the laws of attraction and practiced them. And it comes to a place where not everybody gets to this place, but a lot of people do, where they stop wanting to manifest everything, right? And we see people that are on top of the world and they have all these things and they'll tell you, well, it's not what it really is all about, right? So you get to that where in manifestation, yes, you're working on your body, you're working on your money, you're working on relationships, you're working on attracting and manifesting all these things, which you can do. You can manifest all of those things. But there comes a place where we kind of move into stage 3, which is we move into a state of allowance, where we recognize that there is something bigger out there. And it's not just about what our body is doing. And it's not just about what we have in our life, what possessions we've manifested. There is more to it. And then we come and we find that trust and faith that there is more and we are okay. We don't need all of these things. And then from there, there's an even further stage, and that's oneness, where we realize that we are one with everything around us. We are one with God. We are God. And that is just true connection. And you really lose the desire to be needing these things, right? When we're in manifestation, we're moving out from victim mentality, but a lot of it still comes from a state of need. I need this to be happy. I need this to be safe. I need this to feel love. But when we start moving to these higher stages, we recognize we don't need our body to do a certain thing to be happy. We move into, we don't need our environment to make us happy. And we start to find that higher purpose, that higher connection. So they exist together at all times.
Yeah. That sounds like infinite.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Much bigger.
Yeah. All this happens simultaneously. And like you were just mentioning, just different levels that we all on in our own journey, but it's whatever level you have your awareness to, that's what you experience simultaneously.
Yeah. And we shift back and forth through the different phases all the time. And, sometimes we'll move back into victim mode. There's no right or wrong here. We don't have to go and be in higher levels of consciousness. There are people who we perceive to be in lower levels of consciousness to be serving a very important purpose on a more bigger picture. So that's the thing. We don't see the whole picture.
Oh, we have some comments coming in still. So this person said, mindset. I beat 10-year addiction. I was started on stimulant and depressants from childhood. Thought pills cured everything. I work every day at it. Let go, let God.
Exactly. And that's the faith, the trust.
Oh yeah, you're getting lots of love over here. Made an image and likeness of God. I believe this is the, yup, it's the hand claps. Peter showing love to whoever this user is. Oh, and let's see what Peter wrote. Peter said, congratulations on your freedom from addiction. I was in 15 years of alcohol, no more. Over 36 years.
Amazing. You. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It goes back to what we were talking about before, and like for you and your healing path of finding your balance of making that decision. So it seemed like for these two, they made a decision like, okay, I'm going to heal from this addiction. I'm going to shift my being to no longer be addicted to these things. And I'm sure like when you actually make that decision, and we're going to be speaking for, I'm sure, a lot of people out there who may be on some medications for whatever they are dealing with. And actually a person who couldn't make it today was asking a question in regards to the fibromyalgia and all the autoimmune diseases. And what they do is, like you say, we're told by these prescribers that you got to take these medications, and you're told from a doctor, if you don't take this, you're going to die in 10 years. So being told that, oh crap, I got to do these things. But for these people who have been told this way, and like we were talking about conditioning to take these medications for whatever they're dealing with, how are they able to potentially create the possibility of another way of actually being able to heal, especially for those who may be fearful of doing this because they're told by doctors, you need to take this medication. So obviously if you're told something from somebody that you deem an authoritative figure or somebody who's more knowledgeable, then like, I can't do this because my doctor told me I got to do this.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and it is really hard because we've really given away our power as a society to medical professionals, thinking that they are the only authority, and we're really shifting. There is such a huge shift. We live in the age of information. All the information is out there. It's not, you don't have to go to school to learn something anymore. You can learn it anytime from anywhere. So when we take our power back and we don't let anybody really tell us exactly what we have to do, and we turn inwards and say, how does this feel to me? Like, does this jive with me? And most of us, when we're given these medications, a lot of them, they make us feel terrible and we don't really want to take them. But we get stuck. So it's listening to our own gut feeling and getting a second opinion. There is so many options out there right now with different health practitioners, natural practitioners, and you can definitely check out my book where I show you exactly the outline of my program. And in the back of the book, I teach you how to interpret the different labs. So for something like fibromyalgia, it's an issue normally with detox pathways and neurotransmitters. So when we look at people with fibromyalgia, they're normally prone to lower dopamine levels, lower endorphin levels, so they feel more pain. And then their detox pathways are affected. So they have a toxin buildup. A lot of people have issues with oxalates. So they're having all of these pains all over their bodies because the body is unable to deal with the toxins. So when you look for that and you start addressing that versus taking a medication for pain, there's different options. A lot of people will be put on something like Lyrica for fibromyalgia, which is basically, it's not fixing anything. It's just making you not feel it. So the issue is still there, you just don't feel it. And so the issue can keep getting worse. And then when that medication usually stops working, then you go into almost like a tolerance withdrawals. We see it a lot with benzodiazepines, where people know the medication no longer works and they go into withdrawal even though the medication is there. And it is a ridiculously hard journey for people to go off of medications. It's something that I work with a lot with my clients, and it's something that I had to do myself. And it was, when I tried without supplemental support, it was torture. Once I got the supplemental support on board, it made the journey a lot more manageable, a lot more tolerable, but it is still a long journey. So if we can prevent that before starting, if we can look into these more natural options before starting and start giving the body tools to heal, then it saves people from going on these incredibly hard journeys to come off medications that eventually stop working. Like I had a client who was prescribed prednisone, even though she had no autoimmune markers. And then when the prednisone started to destroy her liver, the doctor was like, you need to stop the prednisone. And she couldn't. You can't withdraw it that quickly. And the doctor actually fired her because she wouldn't stop the medication and go on something called a biologic. And she was like, her organs were already starting to shut down and they just abandoned her. So it's crazy. And if we can prevent that, we save so much suffering.
It's for me, it's like the outside the box situation of what's going on, but then they're trying to solve it with an inside the box thinking.
Exactly.
But then when it gets outside the box,
they drop the box. They're like, oh crap, the box is too heavy now.
Yeah. And that's why I love the fact of how you do it with the mind, body, spirit, because you're bringing an outside the box frequency to handle these outside the box situations, because each person experiences different. It's not the same thing that, okay, you got to do this and do this and do this. It's like a universal, but then like a tailored way for each person for their own healing journey.
Yeah. Well, and we're also different. You just take a look at people's genetics, and something like quercetin, where people are, oh, I'm going to take it for allergies. Well, not everybody should be taking it, because some people have really slow phase 1 detox pathways, and quercetin slows it down further. So then they're, in essence, turning off part of their detox pathways. So when we look at people's genetics, we can see what their enzymes are doing, and we can customize the supplements to their body. And that, when you've got that support on board, especially when you're supporting the brain, you're supporting detox, it enables you to go on an easier, smoother spiritual journey, a smoother mindset journey, because you're not as consumed with your symptoms.
And do your the way that you interpret the genetics and the blood work and so forth, do you happen to take into consideration like the momentary dynamics of epigenetics?
Yeah, so definitely when we do have to recognize that we can turn off genes. Now, when somebody is presenting with illness, the more likelihood is that that gene has been turned on. So we don't just look at genetics. So when we're talking about neurotransmitters, we can see how you break down dopamine, we can see how you break down serotonin. And then what we do is we run another test called an organic acids test, which show the metabolites of serotonin and the metabolites of dopamine. So we compare, we look at, okay, so if you are, say, the enzyme to break down dopamine is called COMT. And if you're somebody like myself who is CMT++, it means I have 2 mutations on that enzyme. I break down dopamine very, very, very slowly. So I'm prone to very high dopamine levels. And if I run an organic acids test, I should see very low levels of metabolites because my brain is breaking it down slowly. If I were to see high levels of metabolites, it would indicate that my mutation is not active. So we collaborate our genetics with blood work and other labs, urine labs, to look and see what genes are actually active.
Got it.
Yeah.
And as part of your like training on the quantum level with having people, help them with this part of, of genetics that's just becoming really popular now.
I haven't delved into the quantum level personally. I do know a lot of practitioners who are doing it. Right now, I'm not seeing the best correlation with the lab work that I run. So with my program, I definitely know it has a great success rate. And when somebody is doing like these quantum testing and they're having a supplement that is really going against their genetics and what their body is telling me that it needs, it doesn't resonate with me. And I think a lot of that too has to do with self-sabotage, that we can have these unconscious energies and frequencies that can be affecting that and preventing us from truly getting a really good reading. So much of it has to do with our energy. And if we are in this state where we are stuck and our body doesn't really want to move forward, it could be because of fear, then it's not going to give us as great of a picture as what we would like. So I think we need a little bit more work on that. Personally, I do love the lab work that I run, just because it's given me such a great success rate with clients. And then moving into also doing the emotional work and doing the spiritual work, because a lot of times with a lot of the quantum things, people do forget some of that aspect. They think that this one thing is going to fix it, and it does require a little bit more holistic approach, in my opinion.
Got it. Awesome. All right, let's catch up on some comments. Marvin says, my best friend is albino, has RA, and is blind. I see her next week and I'm going to have her follow you. She needs your practices in her life. She just graduated from massage therapy school too. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. And that's amazing. I love when people are having those things that many people would perceive as a struggle, and they're showing the world that no, we can do it regardless of what our body is doing.
Totally. Peter says, I'm a Zoloft type of guy for my compulsivity. I was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 40. I take Adderall. Adderall made a big change from Ritalin, and these two prescribed medications made the difference between slowing my mind down to always being in a rush. And Peter also says, I know with my head injury, the school totally denied this ever happened. And also he has a question. He said, with my lesion, did I rewire around those neurotransmitters, or did that lesion heal itself?
So you would have to see with an MRI whether the lesion is still there or not. The neurotransmitters, whether you have a lesion or not, are still going to be the same. We still have our other parts of your brain will produce neurotransmitters. So there will be a lot of rewiring. It would be interesting to see that MRI study, but most likely your brain did do a lot of rewiring. Now, when we look at those two medications, they're kind of contradicting each other, where we have something like Zoloft, which slows the breakdown of serotonin, and then we have something like Ritalin, which is going to start to give you a more dopamine-like effect. So normally what we want to do is we want to bring balance to the brain naturally, and I definitely would not recommend anybody go off their medication at any time. Always work with a practitioner when you are on medication. If that is something that you feel called to do, it is very unsafe to go off your medication cold turkey. It can cause you to end up in the hospital. It can cause you to die. So definitely work with somebody who understands this. But if you are on multiple medications, it is a process to then get off of them, because when the medications are in place, it is much more difficult to add in the natural support, because when you have something like Zoloft, that slows the breakdown of serotonin. If we want to build up serotonin, we have to be very cautious that levels don't get too high, because that unnatural medication is there slowing down the breakdown. So it's not actually giving you more serotonin, it's just slowing down the breakdown. For myself, when I was on Effexor, which is also an SSRI, it stopped working. So my brain stopped being able to produce enough serotonin for that medication to do anything. But because the medication was there changing my receptors, it still led to a dependency on the medication. So it definitely is a practice to get off medication. It is something that people have to feel called to do. And many times they might not be ready for that. And that's totally okay.
Got it. Peter says, yes, I've been working with my mental health practitioner to adjust my medications. Thank you for your input.
You're welcome.
We've got a few more comments coming in for you, Sandie.
Yes, no problem.
I'm loving these one-word powerful statements that you're making here, Marvin. Alignment, yes.
I love that one.
And also, she says, my son is autistic. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, so definitely supporting the brain is going to be very, very important. You're going to want to run genetics. You're going to want to get the proper brain support on board. Autism itself can often be caused by things that we've put into the body that cause more autoimmune type responses. High levels of heavy metals that are commonly found in vaccinations are a big contributing factor. So that can have very many causes. So balancing the brain, very important. Really working on and repairing detox pathways. Something for children with autism, their attachment needs are very different. So looking into Dr. Gordon Neufeld's work is something that can help a lot. He has a lot of work on autism and attachment and how to build those safe attachments so that they do feel safe, because their brain is not developing at the same rate that other children are. And that's totally okay. I feel that all these children coming into the world right now who are having to deal with autism really have a lot of lessons to teach us. And we're going to learn so much from them about compassion and about what we're doing to our bodies from pregnancy and onwards, what we're doing to our children, what we're putting into their bodies, and they are going to really cause an amazing movement.
Awesome. Thank you to Sandie, and
you'll be your greatest teacher.
There you go. Marvin's also asking, which it's almost that time, in your work, how would I move forward with him? You got that.
Yeah, so what I like to do, I start with genetics, I start with a full blood panel, and I also start with an organic acids test. That just gives us a lot of information. A lot of times with autistic children, if they're having trouble with doing blood work, then we would just leave that and we would focus on some of the other labs. We could do a urinary methylation test. There's different options that we can run. Looking at copper zinc levels is very important. We want to look at oxalates. Oxalates play a big role in autism. So we would be running these labs to start seeing just what the body has to say. And from there, we would add in supplemental support. And with kids, we use gummies. We use we'll use tablets or chewables. Some people will mix supplements with food, but there's always, well, where there's a will, there's a way. I have a woman who has a 1-year-old, and with some pretty interesting genetic stuff going on. So a very large supplement list. And she has found some really creative ways to get a lot of supplements into her little one. So it's definitely doable.
Awesome. Thank you, Sandie.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I recommend like checking out my book, Heal Yourself. It outlines my entire program. Of course, when we're working with children, there are some changes because children aren't going to be running all the same labs. And the book itself is more geared towards adults. But the outline of the program is pretty similar. We would just make some tweaks if we needed to, testing wise.
And I just want to make sure your book, is it available on Amazon?
Yep, it's available on Amazon. Thank you. You can also get a free paperback copy at gethealyourself.com.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Put that into the comments so that way people will see this, and the people who are going to watch this episode later on as well, they can be able to see it. I'm just going to a lot. You get the conversation going. I'm just doing my thing. Or unless you want to have hold music.
I hear the music. My son is a huge Beatles and ABBA fan. So he's 3.5 and he can tell you all the Beatles songs, all the ABBA songs, and we listen to them all day long.
And then what was the website again?
Gethealyourself.com.
Okay.
I think I can type that too. No, I don't know how. Hold on.
Gethealyourself.com.
There we go.
Perfect. Yeah, so I wanted to make it accessible to everybody, and what was happening worldwide was it was taking forever for people to get the book. Like if people were in Australia, because it is on Amazon, amazon.com.ca.uk, but for the outlying countries, it was really tough. So what I did was create this place where people can go to get a free paperback copy. They just pay for shipping and handling, and that little extra for shipping and handling actually helps cover people who are overseas who are ordering the book from some of these smaller countries that don't have access to Amazon like we do. Then they're able to do it that way. And you can also, it's also on Audible, so you can find it there too if you like the audiobooks, which is basically all that I listen to now. But yeah, it's there too.
And that's the best way to get in touch with you as well?
They can go to my website. It's sgintegrativehealing.com, or Facebook. I have a Facebook group called Motivated to Heal Naturally. So either of those, but there's going to be links on my website.
Okay.
And I'll type that to you.
Cool, because it seems like we got some interested peoples here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. These are people on the healing journey, so.
Yeah, there's such a big movement, and it's why, like, for me as a practitioner, I probably work with about 150 people every year, and that is a lot. The thing is I would like to be able to work with more people, but it's not physically possible for me to do that many clients. So that's why I created the Integrative Healing Academy and training people to do what I do right now. I have 20 people right now going through the beta launch, and then it's going to be opening up to the general public. I just opened this up to a very small group of people, and starting in January for the next enrollment, it's going to be open up to the general public, and that's going to create more people doing what I do, because my approach is so holistic, and I haven't found anybody who's creating this holistic approach. And if I train 100 people to do what I do, then we can work with 10,000 people every single year versus 150. So it's very exciting. And I've really found that my passion right now is teaching people to do what I do. And it's not just about the impact that we're going to make on the world with helping more people heal, which is amazing, but I love teaching people how to make money. I love breaking those barriers where people are stuck in these really poor mindsets. And I mean like poor as in not wealthy and not bad, but having these not wealth consciousness mindsets. And it's amazing how easily people could be making 6 figures at home. every year making six figures, and we're so conditioned that we need a degree, we need to go to work all day, we need to work so hard to make this money, and it does not have to be that hard. We can have this balance that we go back to, where we can have family, we can have friends, we can have playtime, we can live our passion, we can help people, and we can also make a lot of money doing it. So bringing that all together.
We're gonna actually allow you to answer that question. I'm sure people will see this, that it's possible for them to leave whatever they're doing, the job that they don't really have a passion for, but they feel, I need to do this to make money. And that limited resources and limited money that you're getting, but like giving so much of yourself for just that little portion. So these people say like, okay, if I can make this shift to six figures and have six figures from home, what do I need to do?
Yep, exactly. And that's where I created the Integrative Healing Academy. Is first, I train you how to do, you have to have a knowledge base. You have to understand how to interpret the labs. You have to understand how to design protocols for people. You have to be able to make a shift in other people's lives, because in order to be successful, you need these tools to bring about change and transformation in your clients. And then once you are very well versed in that science aspect of it, then I created a course called the Business Boom course, where I teach people everything that I've learned in the past 6 years building my business to, you know, almost a 7-figure business now. It's teaching people all the tools that I've learned to create that business, and it doesn't have to have huge overhead costs. And I've really taken out all the mistakes that I made and just put in all the stuff that worked to teach people, okay, this is how you start your business, you start your online business. And it doesn't necessarily have to be online. It can be in person, it can be retreats. There's so many options that we can do as health coaches. And my practitioners are going to be certified as integrative healing practitioners. And it's amazing what they're going to be able to create. And I'm more excited to see what they are going to create than anything else. I'm just so excited what they're gonna do in this world.
I love it. Great answer too.
Thank you. Yeah.
The essence behind it, and like what I grasp from what you just said, is one, your own healing journey that you did and you got results for it. And you're providing a service for helping people to go from point A to point B. And you're not helping people go from point A to point B because, like, let's say, like you found some information on YouTube or something like that and you're trying to teach it. This is something that you embodied because you went through your experience with this. And people, and I'm a consumer like that, I'm willing to pay for something that I can get results from wherever I'm looking to go to.
Yep, exactly.
And the aspects of this, you're showing something out there, one that's unique, and it's possible for people who may have that little thought like, I wonder if I can heal from what I'm dealing with. And yes, you can.
And get determined to do it, and then you give the people the tools to do it. And once they start healing themselves, that's normally the natural progression. People heal themselves, and then they move into starting to heal other people. And this is just taking out, that big chunk of journey that I had to do on trial and error and saying, hey, this is what I've found that has worked for the majority of my clients. And you can reproduce this, and then you can go from there, and you can expand and grow as your own practitioner and create whatever you want to create. And I've had over the years so many different ideas for what I would do in my business, but I can't do all of them. So in my business course, I give all these ideas that I have that, hey, you can pick 1 or 2 or 5 or whatever you want to do, and you can create whatever type of business that you want to.
I love it.
Yeah.
Which is another amazing pointer right there. Find what works for you.
Exactly.
And apply it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you're a gem. You're not saying like, okay, here's the steps for you to do because I did these steps and this is the way you got to do it. You're showing an abundance. Like, hey, find yours.
Yeah. This is what I do and what works, and do that, and then go from there, right? Like then expand and grow. This is just going to give you the most amazing foundation, and you can go with it in any direction.
Beautiful. Peters.
Thank you. Yeah, it just came out last August. It was launched last August.
So Marvin said, "I hate my job, but I'm single mom."
Yeah, so use your job, right? So that's so much. We have these thoughts around our job and why we don't like it. And when I was moving into taking courses and becoming a integrative healing practitioner and starting to do what I do, I was still a massage therapist, and both of my shoulders were starting to shut down, and I was in a lot of pain doing it. But all I did when clients weren't asleep on the table was I talked about this new endeavor. So I brought it in, and then in my spare time when I wasn't working, then I would learn and grow from there. And so we use our job to fuel our passion. So we take a little bit aside, we do what we need to do. Like when I went into doing I took the functional diagnostic nutrition course. And when I did that, I had to go into debt to do that course. And I was already $62,000 in student debt because I have 7 years of post-secondary education. So there was a lot of debt. And then I did more debt. And then once I graduated from FDN, I had to hire a business coach because I had no idea how to create a business. And I went into even more debt. And then from there, she taught me all of this about the laws of attraction and everything that I teach in the business boom course, plus everything that I've learned since then. And in my first year, I paid off all my debt. So it was that quickly. And I still had money in the bank left over. So it was amazing when I was able to go to that 6-figure income in that first year. But I had to step out of my comfort zone. I had to take risks. I had to do things that were incredibly uncomfortable. I had to squash these limiting beliefs and really just move through the fear that I had. So you can definitely do it. And if you're a single mom, is it tougher? But use your kids to fuel you instead of hinder you. Use them as fuel that you want to teach them that they can do these things too. So it could be when your little one's asleep, and you might be like, oh, I'm too tired, I'm working all day. But when you find your passion, you also find unlimited energy. I would work 8 hours a day, every day, 6 days a week as a massage therapist, and I would still study and I would still build my business after I finished studying. When you find that passion, you will find the energy too.
Amen. Aho, namaste, all of the above.
No, it's amazing. Even creating the Integrative Healing Academy, once the idea came, it was like God said, sit your butt down, Sandie, and get this done. And I did, and the energy was just there. Like it comes when you move into that connection, when you're moving into your passion and you're in spirit, the energy, the possibilities will come. But we have to look at where we're saying I can't and start saying I can, and stop seeing the impossibilities and just see the possibilities. Just see them. Find the solutions. It's totally doable.
Yeah. Usually we end at like the top of the hour, but there's so much good content that's coming through right now, and definitely want to be able to help serve the people who are here live as well, especially with an amazing guest like yourself.
Thank you.
And I know this one statement is something that it's going to be a universal theme with a lot of people out there who feel like they have to do like that job that they're not passionate about. Yeah. So it seemed like this is from Marvin as well, but it said the environment's negative and I just get by, like that just getting by belief type of thing that happens, but also that reality. So for you, what is
the lighthouse? Shift the environment. If you can't leave the environment, shift it. If I go into and this has taken a lot of work. I have an exercise in my book called Protect Your Energy. And when you become the lighthouse, the environment will shift, right? And then anything that's there will bounce off to you, and you'll start just spreading the light, and you'll shift the environment. So that can be getting clear on setting boundaries. That can be just shifting your vibration higher. That can be being of service to people who need help with whatever they're working through. So you just might be doing little things to light people up.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, there we go.
You're very welcome.
Find the solutions, evaluate, and execute. Ooh.
Exactly.
Okay. So, this was a very enlightening and amazing conversation.
I agree. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for reaching out to us to be a guest on here as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad my assistant did and booked this in for me. That was awesome.
Yeah, this was a magical conversation.
Yeah, I loved it. And great questions. Thanks everybody for joining live.
Yeah. So with that, 2 questions for you. First one is, where can people find you? And the second question is, from all this conversation that we had, what is one magical parting words that you would love to say to whoever's watching this?
Yeah, just start focusing on your passion. If you are suffering from any health issue, start running some labs, seeing what your body needs to heal, really moving your focus away from your symptoms and what is wrong to what your body needs to heal. And when you start moving into passion, moving into purpose, that's going to open you up to so many different possibilities.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I guess that link right there is where people can find you, right? Okay.
Yes, exactly. That's
Cool. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone who chimed in, Alexandra, Peter, Marvin. You guys helped to make this a more powerful container for the conversation we had that not only benefit each and every one of us, but it benefited the collective as well. And just that little bit more magic just got infused into this collective consciousness. And of course, until next time,
stay magical.
Yes.